we should be live any second now. Sometimes it's hard to tell.
Is there any way you tell like how many people are on?
I can once the video stream is published. So redirecting to Facebook Live page. It's hard to tell when it actually goes live, and you got to refresh the page. Okay, I believe we're live on Facebook.
Okay.
Yep, we are up and going.
It looks like it's just us for right now.
I think it's just us by ourselves until someone else joins us. Folks, if you're joining in, give the video a like. Particularly jump on there and hit the wow face. You know, when you hover over the like button, tap wow, and that's the face that's going like that, because that helps spread engagement. Also, if you're a member of a motorsports related group, you're an admin of those groups, you have sharing privileges. Share this video, because this information with Mr. Joe Marko of HMS Motorsport is going to be really critical and really important, because we have a new certification for helmets coming out that it was actually launched very recently today. And you're going to want to know this information. So let us know in the comments. And we already got Ryan Burkert on here, and he says, hey, so Joe, how are you doing this evening?
We're doing just great. You know, we had a great September, and people are getting out on the track, and that's a great thing. You know, I mean, it was a tough first part of the year, I think, for all of us, but more and more people are getting out on the track, and the business has picked up. So no complaints. You know, we managed, I think, like you, we managed to hang on to all of our staff and keep things going. And the tracks are learning new ways to do things, and the clubs are learning new ways. You know, a lot of the clubs are not doing in-car installation or in-car instruction, but they're doing lead follow, and they're trying to make it work. And I think more and more people are working. I think the fortunate thing for our industry is that even if the people are not on the track, they are at least thinking about getting on the track, so they work on their car. So therefore they still buy the stuff they need. You know, we've sold the same number of belts, seat belts, stroke belts and stuff as we sold in prior years. We're really not off at all.
Right.
It's just like helmets and driver suits and stuff like that, which, because people are doing less on track, I think that's falling off. But
that makes sense. You know, we've had actually, by all means, a strong year with a little bit of a hiccup right when coronavirus started, but and a lot of that has been doing paid webinars and doing some other stuff to help people stay engaged. But we just released the new phone mount that we're now carrying. That's for the new Lap Timer Plus videoing feature. So that just came out recently. So that's been the focus, and sold a bunch of those in September. So if you're watching now, guys, and have questions about that, feel free to ask us or reach out to Apex Pro after the video. They're $59. They're listed on our website.
I tried the other one, and I fought with it to try to get the other one mounted in the back window of the Cayman and get the camera to face the right way. And it was a nightmare, but this one is awesome.
It's a little bit better. So available at HMS Motorsport very soon. So Joe, you know a thing or two about helmets, have been around the block, and have worn a helmet or two. So tell us about these new Snell regulations. What's going on?
The new Snell 2020 standard was just officially released. You can buy now if you can find a dealer that has them in stock, and if they don't have them in stock now, they will shortly. You know, technically you're not supposed to be shipping out helmets. The distributors aren't supposed to ship them out until the 1st, but I think some of them have been shipped, but in any case, they could not be sold before today. So today's the first day you can officially buy a Snell 2020 helmet. The Snell standard comes out every 5 years. And from my understanding of the 2020 helmet compared to 2015, there's not a huge difference. They might make some small tweaks on what they require of the helmet as far as, you know, safety, but in general, there's very little change from the 2020 new standard to the old 2015 standard. But they are there, and some people have come up with new helmets, and because of COVID, I think there might be some delay in getting, if you're a really small head or a really large head, you may find it difficult in the next couple of months, maybe until the beginning of the year, to find all of the sizes. You know, so not every manufacturer is likely to have every single size especially if you're, 62, 63, 64, or 54, 55, because each of the different sizes has to be homologated. And so they, it can take time. And a lot of times the really small helmets might be a different shell, and the really extra large helmets might be a different shell. So they'll homologate the sizes in one shell first, and that's really one test. But then if they have another shell size, they have to do a different homologation for each different shell. So that's it.
Gotcha.
In addition to that, we have FIA homologations, which are 8859 and 8860. And 8860, within that, there are a few different standards. There's the 8860 2018 ABP, and what the ABP is that they've incorporated into the top part of. So this is just an 8860 helmet, and this is not a new helmet. This has been around for a couple of years. But what the ABP does is it puts the Xylon strip, which IndyCar and Formula One used to require to be stuck to the top of the visor. They actually build it into they build it right into the upper part of the helmet right there.
Yeah.
So what it does is it actually cuts down a little bit on the height of the opening, but it's usually at the part that would be covered by the typical sticker that most people put on the tops of visors, like for sun thing. So you really don't lose that much visibility in any helmets, but that is built in then to the helmet. So there's a Xylon strip that's built in and molded in with the carbon fiber. Cool. and that takes the place of what with the earlier versions of 8860s, where you would add a Xylon strip here for certain series, like IndyCar required it. IndyCar will still allow the 8860 2010. The new standard is an 8860 2018 ABP, and so those are the two in 8860. A lot of the 8860 helmets in the past were done both with 8860. I know Stilo did their Zero helmets, used to come with a Snell 2015 sticker. Now they've gone to 2020. And most of the people who are recognizing 8860 helmets as legitimate and not needing a Snell sticker. So like NASCAR, for example, recognizes 8860 helmets, and they don't require it to also be a Snell 2015.
So that's the 8860 is an FIA rating, which is an international standard, right. And Snell is an American standard, if I have that right.
It's also recognized some in Europe too, but in Europe mainly they look for FIA. So there's the 8860, which is the highest standard, and then there's 8859 from an FIA, and 8859 2015 is the newest standard that's out there. They do not do every 5 years like Snell does. So basically, if you get a Stilo helmet or some of the helmets, a lot of them now will come with two standards. You'll see an 8859 standard sticker in the helmet, as well as a Snell 2020 sticker in the new helmet. Now, the difference between the Snell helmet and 8860 helmet, or even between an 8860 and an 8859 helmet, is the testing requirements for the Formula One style or 8860 helmet are significantly more intense. So basically, within 8859, they drop a helmet from about 3 meters onto different forms, and they measure the intrusion with different shapes of how that can go through the helmet at certain points. And then they also measure the concussive load. So they have a sensor inside, they have a head form inside the shell with EPS that's fit to the different size helmets, and it measures the concussive load with certain impacts that the helmet takes. So the 8859 and the Snell 2015, 2020 typically are dropped from 3 meters for those kind of tests, and there's a certain level of protection that must be offered for intrusion and concussive protection. What happens with the 8860 is they drop the helmet from 5 meters, but it basically has to have the same protection that you're getting out of the 8859 or the Snell standard. It has to have the same protection, but dropping it from 5 meters instead of 3. So you actually are, if you're a physics person, that's quite a significant additional load. So there's a greater protection from a high or higher G impact against a concussive injury than there would be from a Snell or an 8859 helmet. So there's a lot of advantages to 8860s, and we're seeing, you know, there's the ABP 8860s are $5,000, $6,000, sometimes $7,000, but you can get into the 8860 2010 standard, or the version without the ABP. Those are coming down to, you're seeing a few of those into the, you know, $3,500, you know, between $3,000, $3,500 range, which is nice. And it's a big improvement over, you know, in safety over what you would see was a standard 2020. But you're still looking at, you know, at least, you know, $1,000 to $2,000 more than you're going to find with a carbon helmet.
Yeah. That makes sense. Joe, we already got a couple folks commenting, and guys, if you're on the live stream watching now, drop in the comments what helmet you're wearing, you know, what Snell certification it has, and what manufacturer. And I think we already got a couple folks, Ryan Burkert and Scott Spear, already jumped on and said they're helmet shopping because they have they both have a Bell Sport Snell 2010, so they are looking for new helmets. And then Eric Penn has a Bell Sport 2015. Sam Nixon's rocking the Stilo GT5 2015. So we got several folks that are going to be looking to pick up a new helmet soon. So this is going to be good information. So that Snell certification.
Looking at the certifications, or you have to look at your sanctioning body, because most, especially club racing and track days and things like that, nearly everybody allows the last two standards. So you know, if you have a 2015 helmet, unless you're racing in NASCAR, or some, you know, really obscure other professional level, you're going to be fine with a 2015 helmet for the next 5 years. You know, NASCAR will, in 2021, will probably require a 2020 helmet. They won't do it right now because all the sizes aren't out, but very shortly they will. But for club racing, you know, Porsche Club, BMW Club, SCCA, NASA, pretty much everybody, you're going to be good with the 2015 or 2020. And usually in the first year, so basically this 2021 will be kind of a transition year, since the new helmets are just coming out right now. Most clubs will allow through the end of next year a 2010, a 2015, or 2020. And that's important because, like I mentioned earlier on, if you're a really small size or if you're a really large size, you may not have the range of selection until maybe January or February, when all the inventory starts, you know, flowing into the distribution network. So a lot of organizations will allow all three standards, at least in the beginning part of next year, which is necessary, because that you don't want that person that has a Snell 2010 helmet that has a smaller size or a really large size to be forced in to getting a helmet, because the options for that are not going to be, you know, necessarily the same as they would be for everything else.
That makes sense, and that kind of leads into our next kind of conversation topic. And folks, as you're following along and you have questions, particularly if it's pertaining to the topic we're discussing, drop it in the comments. If you have something unrelated, drop it in the comments as well, and we'll try to get to it. Any helmet related questions are going to be awesome. But I think we're going to jump into a little bit of fitment discussion, which Joe seemed like it would be relevant, you know, going into the sizing situation. But our first question here from Ryan Burkert's: how big of an impact on a helmet requires replacing? If it falls off a shelf and hits the floor, is that enough to be considered an impact?
Okay, so that's a good question. I'm glad that came up. So what happens is there's really two parts to a helmet. There's the outer shell, and then there's the inner EPS liner. So if you drop a helmet, you know, onto the pavement or something, depending on how far you drop it, you have the potential that you could crack the shell at some point in time. Now, once a shell is cracked, okay, then the intrusion protection against it, should there be an accident and you actually need it, you know, once you crack a helmet, the helmet's cracked and it's done, and the protection, and the next time it comes to take a hit, it's not going to give you the same level of protection. So when Snell test helmets, you know, there'll be a few different hits in different places. But you know, once you get a hit, that's pretty much does it. If the helmet falls hard enough, and if you can visibly see a crack, and sometimes you won't visibly be able to see that crack. So it's kind of, you know, you have to use your discretion a little bit as far as, you know, dropping it. If you set it on top of the car and then you knock it off and it hits the pavement, is it done? I can't say that it is, and I can't say that it isn't. It's certainly going to get scratched up. But if you're Tony Stewart and you throw it across the track and hit another car, then it's probably, I would say, then the shell's probably done at that point. Now, that's different than the inner EPS. The inner EPS is a one-time compression foam. So if you drop the helmet on the floor, that's not affecting the inner EPS. So you're not reducing the protection against the concussive protection as long as there's no intrusion. But also remember that that EPS is if you take an impact, okay, so now I have an impact in the car, and let's say my head hits the roll bar. Okay, maybe I don't crack the helmet, but now what's happened is I had such a force that I've now, my head inside the helmet has compressed the EPS. It's absorbed that energy that it was supposed to do. And now the helmet, that is done, because now your helmet is bigger. And in that spot where you had that particular hit, it's going to be, you know, not properly sized anymore. And it's now going to have a space, which is going to allow the helmet to loft a little bit off your head. And then that means that, you know, it's not going to give you the level of protection. Even if you don't hit something, but it's a really hard hit and you really activate the Hans in a significant way, where you know that that Hans really did it. What you've done is you compressed the foam at the top part of the helmet, because there's a time when the Hans or not, I shouldn't say Hans, the frontal head restraint, where the tethers are grabbing that unit, and at some point in time, it's grabbing your helmet and keeping it back to keep the head from going down, but it's also pushing your head into the front part of the foam up here in the helmet.
It's going, pushing that up against.
So now when that happens, then again, if it's a big hit, you know, if you're replacing your belts and you're doing all the other stuff, your helmet is probably due for replacement at that point in time also. Now, one other thing to remember, I see a lot of people when they put on a helmet and they put the helmet on, and then for whatever reason, they have to push it down on their head. Okay, I don't know what they think they're doing there, but what you're doing is that the more you push down on the top of your helmet on your head, the more that you're compressing that EPS foam by little tiny bits. But every time you put your helmet on, if that's your habit, and if you keep doing that, you're making that helmet bigger. And you might notice that if you've had a helmet for 5 or 10 years and you're a head pusher, okay, your helmet is going to feel like it got bigger. Okay, well, and it did get bigger. So be careful, you know, don't, when you're putting a helmet on, you want to pull the helmet on, you want to grab it by the best way to put a helmet on is to grab the chin straps on the side, put your hand in the visor, and then pull it on by the chin straps. And now what that does is it keeps the chin straps out of the way and make sure that they're lined up properly and they're not twisted. But then by pulling it on that way and only pulling it on by the chin strap, you're not going to be pulling it and pushing it down too far. Okay, so that's the proper way to actually put on a helmet and then try it that way.
Cool, I've been doing it right. That's good. But I can definitely tell I have an SA 2015 Stilo composite that I bought from HMS Motorsport, and I have a lot of mileage on it. I've never had a major impact in it. I've never dropped it significantly, but I have knocked it against roll bars, and I've had all sorts of, and I can tell just because of the amount of time that I've used it, I probably need to replace my helmet. Even though it's a 2015, it's definitely bigger inside with less EPS foam, and it's got enough scuffs on the outside of it that I'm starting to think that it's probably time to go ahead and do it. And that's, so I guess the message that I'm sharing there is just because you have 5 more years left on the certification, it also, you have to consider how much you've used it. Because for a time I was using it 2 or 3 days a week at some point, doing a lot of coaching, which is a lot more than average, I would imagine.
Now, the other things you can do with a helmet is, I mean, we've taken helmets back and cleaned them up. You can, a lot of times your cheek pads are compressible. This is a kind of a memory foam. It's a compression foam. And as you get, so you got EPS on the back part here, and then you've got foam on the front part. So as this is sitting, as this is sitting on your cheek, okay, the more sweat and stuff that you get, this is going to compress. So when you first get a helmet, and we'll talk about, exactly the fitment, you want to make sure that the cheek pad is really, kind of pushing your cheek and almost like you feel like you're going to bite your cheek. Mm-hmm. But after the time, like Andrew's used his helmet, what you'll find is that this will become, feel bigger because this foam is going to get the sweat and moisture in it, and it's going to compress more and more and more and more. So what you can do, if your helmet's 5 years old, but you haven't taken any hits, we can replace the cheek pads. We can, freshen up the inside with, there's some kind of the molecule in some of those products. And then taking care of your helmet as you go along is a really important thing. So if you want a helmet to last you 10 years and you want to be able to put it on your head without dying, there's a few things you can do. You can use, the first thing you do is you get yourself a good helmet dryer. We sell the Pete dryer, which has an ionizer. There are other people with different dryers out there. But when you come back, the worst thing you can do with a helmet is to take it off at the end of your track day, throw it into your helmet bag and put it into the car, and then not take it out until the next time you go out on the track. Because now what you're doing is you're allowing all that sweat and perspiration that's there, and then, whatever, maybe you had some suntan lotion on and you had some other stuff, all that stuff is sitting in the helmet, and that's developing bacteria. And the smell in the helmet is bacteria. It's not anything other than that. So you can get, products like, Molecule has, and I mentioned them because it's just one that they do. They have a thing called Helmet Refresh. You can use Febreze, you can use different things. But if you, spray some of that stuff on it and then put it on a helmet dryer until the helmet is really dry, your helmet is it's not gonna allow the bacteria to grow, and the helmet isn't gonna stink for so long. The other thing you can do is wear a head sock. Wearing a head sock doesn't prevent you from having to dry the helmet out, but it does help to keep the bacteria, because you can wash, as long as you wash the head sock, it will, help to keep the helmet alive. But,
yeah.
If you have a 2015 helmet, even if as long as it's not, damaged, you might, if you want to just refresh it, talk to your dealer or distributor. I mean, most of the helmets nowadays, at least the higher end helmets, have replaceable cheek pads, and some of them have even more parts of the liner that can be replaced. And that's a good way to refresh your helmet. And, sometimes on those field, we do that a lot of times for NASCAR drivers. They'll send us a helmet back after 8 or 9 races, and we'll replace the cheek pads. We'll really freshen up and kind of restore the helmet and then ship it out again. So that's, you don't have to give up on a 2015 helmet, but I would like it if you would, because we'd really like to sell you a new one.
Well, we'll see. I might buy that as I'm moving into a new house soon, so I probably need a new helmet just to go with the new house.
In a couple weeks you can bring it, and I'm sure Austin will refurbish it for you.
That sounds like a plan. I'll definitely do it. We have one more question from Eric Penn, and I think I see an answer to that as well in the comments, but with regard to certifications, and Eric's asking about the difference between an M helmet versus an SA rated helmet.
Okay, so an M rated helmet, a lot of the testing as far as loads, a motorcycle helmet, first of all, it's no fire rated material. Second thing is it does not have a location where a frontal head restraint can be installed. So every SA related helmet has embedded into the helmet the M6 nut in the back of it that's built into the helmet to receive a head and neck restraint, whether it's a Hans or a Schrodt or a Stan 21 or a Next Gen or whatever. Okay, so if it's an M-rated helmet, that location does not exist, and it is no longer legal to drill a helmet and to put a backing plate. So the shell of a SA rated helmet is designed to take the load of the tether from a frontal head restraint at that particular location. So you're going to find an M-rated helmet is not going to have the same strength and support necessarily in this area that you would get from an SA rated helmet. So that's a key difference there. The next thing is the motorcycle helmets need much more airflow from air just coming over there. So you're going to find a motorcycle helmet will typically give you better flow of air, which is kind of, a nice thing maybe depending on the car, but if you're in a sedan, you're really not going to notice it. It may be a little bit louder. So it's really not for motorsports. It's not designed for motorsports. The load testing from Snell is slightly different. I won't say it's a huge amount different, but the kind of impacts that are expected with a motorcycle helmet on the outer shell are different than the kind of impacts that are traditionally expected that you would find in a motorsport helmet, an SA rated helmet. So but I think the biggest difference is you have no option if your organization allows an M-rated helmet, which I think fewer of them are, there is no option for a frontal head restraint to be added to that helmet at any point in time. So I think that's something to seriously take into account.
Yeah, those all sound really important to me. I mean, no fire-rated material. That's one of the biggest concerns, especially if you're driving something with race fuel or that's a purpose-built race car. But even recently, I've seen several people discussing street cars catching on fire at the track, and that's something you need to be prepared for. Ken Schlorf's wondering about is there any reason to disconnect your frontal head and neck restraint when putting on the helmet or taking it off?
Whatever works for you, easier. There's no advantage or disadvantage to continuously connect it, disconnect it. Myself, when I'm as soon as I hit pit row and I'm coming in, I'm reaching up and just clicking it off because I just find it easier to do that. But I know a lot of people that they just leave it connected all the time. Most of the helmet bags that we have now, you can put the helmet and the head and neck restraint in the bag at the same time. So but there's no advantage or disadvantage one way or the other.
Yeah, we have another question that's regarding. Oops, sorry,
okay,
go ahead.
If you disconnect and connect your frontal head restraint a lot, keep an eye on your post and make sure that that the post hasn't. When we put the post in the helmet, there's usually some blue Loctite on it, and so the post should stay pretty much fixed. But it is possible over time that post can become loose, and what will happen is that the keying of it, whether it's a Hans post or a Schroep post or whatever post, they all have a kind of a keyed position. And if that post gets loose in the helmet, then when you try to put the device on and get the device off, it becomes complicated and it could be dangerous if you really need to get it on or off or something quickly. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Just kind of thought of that as because I've had that issue myself, and you probably have too, Andy.
Yeah, that is a good thing to keep an eye on because I'm the same way with you. I'm removing a head and neck restraint. I'm sometimes in cars where we have a total stock seating configuration, so I'm not using it, so removing it a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of you watching have that situation. We have another question from Dane Smith, but it's in regard to what kind of our next topic is. So I figured we'd let you finish up with your fitment topic and proper helmet fitment and how you can. Because that's just such a huge important thing. But if you're just joining the stream, guys, let us know in the comments. Feel free to ask questions, obviously, but also let us know what helmet you're wearing. I think that's just a cool conversation topic. And let us know if you're in the market for a helmet, because we might be able to cater some information to help you make a better decision, give you some more information that's going to help you get the right helmet that's going to fit you well. And obviously, Joe's going to share all the secrets to that as we go through it.
Right. So let's go right into proper helmet fitment. So the first thing is that when you're looking for a new helmet, do not order it mail order. Go to the store of your choice, or when you're at the track, if there's a store at the track, and try the helmets on there. And if you try a helmet on somewhere and you find a helmet that you like, please, please, please don't say, okay, I know what I want, go out and then look for it to be $10 cheaper or $15 cheaper online, because that retail store, that location that you're at, has spent money to put those helmets on the shelf. And it's not a little bit of money, because they need to have a lot of different sizes and a lot of different styles and carbon and composite and 8860. They've spent a lot of money to be able to provide that service to you. The other thing is don't walk into the store and say, I know I want, unless don't walk in and say, I know I want a Stilo or an Arai or a Bell or whatever else. Try on a few different brands of helmets. Different brands of helmets fit different heads. Some people have more of a round head, and a more of a round head generally, you know, maybe a bell helmet might fit somebody a little bit better if they really have a round head. A lot of other people have an oblong head, and Arai and Stilo helmets tend to fit those people better. But it could be different from every helmet. And when you put it on, okay, you need to, you know, we can do a measurement. You know, you can take a lot of times you have no idea what size you are. You can't tell from the helmet. When you do a measurement of the helmet, you want to make sure that you're getting the widest part of your head, all the way around. And you want to take a measurement in a couple of different places to make sure that that measurement turns out. And you're going to come up with a number, and it's going to be like 57, 59, 60, 54, whatever. Okay, and those are centimeters for those of you that don't know what that number means. Okay, and that's basically the diameter around the outside of the head. And that's a good starting point of where to look for the size. Now, when you put a helmet on, a lot of times, a lot of the new helmets, especially, the lower part of the helmet here is much tighter than the old helmets. Now, some brands tend to be open a little bit more at the bottom and a little bit easier to get on. But just because the helmet is difficult to get on when you're first getting through this part, okay, don't assume that it's too small. Don't give up before you even get the helmet on your head. Because what happens is a lot of the helmets now, and I think in more often the better helmets are fitted so that when you kind of push your head up into it, that it comes down and it really covers and protects your chin. You want the helmet to come and cover, you want to cover the back part, the nap part of your neck here. So you want to make sure that the back of it comes down low enough. You want to make sure that your chin isn't sticking out of the bottom of the helmet when you have it on. And you want to make sure that your helmet is brought down. So like the top part of the visor opening should ride somewhere right around here. Okay, you don't want it riding up here, and you don't want to, you know, riding down, you know, below your eyes. So you want to see, you know, where that fits. Now, as you put the helmet on the top of your head, what you want to feel is you want to feel contact all the way around your head, absolutely all the way around the head, and contact on the top. But you don't want to feel, you know, a lot of people will have pressure points here because that's an example of somebody that maybe has either a really wide forehead, or they have an oblong head, or a really round head. They might feel pressure points. If you put on a, you know, an Arai helmet and you have a really round head, you're going to feel pressure points here because the helmet is more shaped, you know, is not shaped for that, you know, that kind of configuration of a head. So you really want to do it, but don't put the helmet on and push, because that's you should be able to pull the helmet on, and then you should feel the top of the helmet. Now, if you put it on, you say, wow, that's really comfortable. Okay, I'd like you to then take the next smaller size and try that on. Okay, the helmet, comfortable is an issue. You want it to be around this part. This part of the helmet is not going to change. So whatever fitment you have around here, that's it. It's never going to change. There's not padding that's going to compress. The only thing that's there is really the EPS and the very thin cover over top of it. The cheek pads, however, can be very different. So I might find, let's say my helmet comes with a standard 25 millimeter cheek pad because of the size that I'm in. But I might really have a really narrow face down here. So what I need to do is I need to replace the cheek pad with either a thicker or a thinner cheek pad. And most helmets nowadays, not all, but most, especially the higher priced ones, you have the ability, especially another reason to go to the store, to swap in and out different size cheek pads. Now the cheek pads should really initially push your cheeks in. You should look like a chipmunk. You should almost feel like you're going to bite your cheeks. That's the proper fitment for the cheek pad initially, because it's not going to take too many days before that's going to start smoothing out and going to be and loosen up a little bit. But you want that to fit tight. And if I take the helmet and I put it on my head and I move it like a football helmet up and down and side to side, okay, it should move. You should see your face inside the helmet. You should see the skin on your face as I move it up and down, go up and down. And when I move it side to side, you should see that it would move the skin on your face side to side, just like it is right now. If I push the helmet over this way, and I can stick my finger between the EPS or between the cheek pad and the helmet, then the cheek pads are too small. Okay, it's not tight enough. When I slide the helmet over to the side, I should not be able to stick my finger between my face and the cheek pad. Okay, it should be tight. So the trick is, you know, put the helmet on. If it feels comfortable, try the next size down. Maybe you can go the next size down, but with a thinner cheek pad. You know, move the helmet, buckle it up. The other thing is you want to make sure when you buckle your chin strap that it's riding right back here. Now, if you're, you know, I've seen people, some helmets with some people, the chin strap's riding out here. The possibility in an impact that it could, your chin could fall out of it is really an issue. The other thing is when you're wearing your helmet, the chin strap needs to be tight, because the chin strap is the main thing holding that helmet on your head. Now, what really happens, and I mentioned getting the helmet to fit down low at the nape of the neck, you know, so this is sitting down. The reason that's important, and the reason the chin strap is important, because in an impact, what happens if it's a frontal impact especially, I'm going to come forward, and I'm going to come forward potentially this much. I'm going to be able to drop a football or a basketball between my back. Now, when I come forward, the belts are going to catch me. The belts are going to absorb into my body. They'll stretch a little bit, which is why I'm coming so much. But then on the rebound, I'm going to rise up and I'm going to slam back against the back of the seat. And then I'm going to slide down a little bit until the crotch belts are catching me where they're supposed to. Now, what's up there is your seat. And it's not unusual. And I've been to the track with 3 serious injuries or incidents where 2 of them, the helmet came off and ended up in the passenger footwell. And why did that happen? Well, either the chin strap wasn't tight enough, the helmet was too big, or they caught the back of the helmet on the back of the seat, and it helped to push the helmet off. Okay, or they got the back of the head and neck restraint caught on the back of the seat, which pushed the helmet off. So you got to be really, you know, careful about some of those things in the Fitment. So think about cheek pads. Some helmets, Stilo helmets, Schubert helmets, have different size crown pads that you can have at the top of the helmet. So here are some here's a Stilo helmet. You can see I've got 3 different thicknesses of crown pads, and the crown pad is the pad that's sitting up here. Mm-hmm. So when you put on a helmet, if you're feeling pressure here, maybe try it with a little bit larger, a little bit thicker crown pad to change the position of where things ride at the top of the head. Okay, or try a thinner one. You know, so a good helmet supplier is going to have all of these different tools, different cheek pads, different crown pads, and things to help fit you in that helmet perfectly. Absolutely. I would say about 70% of the people that come in and try on a helmet, we can fit right off the bat with a standard, you know, size helmet. But those other 30%, we're sitting there for half hour, 40 minutes playing with different sizes of cheek pads, different crown pads to really get that helmet, you know, fit perfectly. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll say, listen, hey, take your phone out, read a book, surf the net, sit with your helmet on for, you know, 15 or 20 minutes, and let's see how it feels. So make sure, so you want a helmet as tight as possible without giving you a headache. So those are all kind of the real critical things for Fitment.
That's all extremely good information. And folks that are following along, I know Kevin Trandle just joined in. He's got an SA 2010 Bell helmet as well that fits great, but he's got to upgrade soon to a 2020. So guys that are all in the market, I know 3 of you in particular all have Bell helmets and are all looking to upgrade. I hope this has been good information. I found that, like I was telling Joe earlier, I had a Bell helmet. I had a Simpson helmet before that fit really well. Or at least I thought it fit really well, but it was extremely heavy. And I didn't realize that until I wore a lighter weight helmet, that it was really, really heavy, distractingly heavy. And then I wore this Bell, and no matter what I did with the padding, the helmet was the best fit shape for my head. I tried on a bunch of different ones. No matter what I did, I could not make this helmet not give me a headache. I mean, major headache every day. After I wore it for more than 30 or 40 minutes, I'd wake up the next day and just be in a lot of pain. And as soon as I realized it was the helmet, I decided I had to figure out what the problem was. And I think it's purely my head shape, Joe. But as soon as I went to the standard Stilo, I believe I'm you'd probably be able to tell me better, a 56 or 57 head size. The standard Stilo, just the shape of the helmet fit my head so much better and so much more appropriately that I got a nice tight cheek fitment, but totally mitigated the headache. And it was a lighter weight helmet, and it was absolutely worth having the integrated communications, all the things that came with it. But since then, it totally changed my outlook on wearing a helmet to where it's so comfortable that it's not even a consideration.
Yeah, now a lot of helmets, especially with ear cups, and more helmets are coming out with ear cups. When you pull a helmet on with an ear cup, a lot of times your ears are going to get like this. You're going to have to kind of put your finger up there. Some of the helmets with ear cups, so they'll have little shims and stuff again to put behind the ear cup so that you can get it positioned properly, against your head. If you have ear cups, it's a little bit more difficult to get the helmet on sometimes, but if you can get your ear in it and get it positioned right with the right shims, it can be pretty comfortable once it's on. But again, putting it on might be a little bit uncomfortable, just to get started. But it's really important, though, that you get a helmet that fits you properly. I've even allowed people to take a helmet home and say, listen, wear it for 45 minutes. I'll give them a head sock, a kind of a toss away like karting head sock. I said, wear it with the head sock, but wear it for 45 minutes while watching TV or for a half hour. And if it gives you a headache, then bring it back, especially if somebody's kind of right on the border between maybe a 57 and a 59 or a 59 and a 60. You're making an investment. And Andrew made a mention of weight. And weight, why is this helmet more expensive than this helmet? Well, generally, it's because it has more adaptability with different features as far as being able to fine tune the helmet. But more likely it's because of the weight of the helmet. So in order to pass the same standard, okay, there's a couple ways to pass it. You can put more material in the shell. You can have a thicker EPS. You can do different things. And you can pass a standard with a much less costly helmet to build because it's got more things. But if you want to take material away and make the helmet light, you have to be much more involved in the intricacy of the design of the helmet, or the way the fiberglass or the way the carbon is laid up, in order to reduce the weight. And that's why it ends up being, more expensive. And then when you're looking at helmets too, there are carbon helmets, and then there are true carbon helmets. A true carbon helmet is a helmet that is made out of carbon and put into typically an autoclave. Okay, as opposed to people who will say it's a carbon helmet and it looks like a carbon helmet, but it's going to be carbon, and then it's going to be Kevlar, and then it might be some fiberglass, and it might look like a carbon helmet. It may have some carbon in it, but it may not be a true carbon helmet. A true carbon helmet is probably going to be more expensive than a carbon looking helmet, or a carbon helmet that has some element of carbon in it. So buyer beware a little bit. There's a lot of products that are made in a lot of different countries that may appear to be something that they are not entirely, that way. And so it's kind of like dollar head, dollar helmet. I mean, and less weight, especially if you're sometimes in the car without a frontal head restraint, weight is very critical. Every ounce of weight that you add, it's mass times acceleration. It's exponentially increasing the neck loads that you're going to feel from that helmet. So with the head and neck restraint, the weight is a little bit less critical, because you've got the head and neck restraint that's helping to maintain the head, but you're going to feel tired. I mean, one of the things when we started working with NASCAR drivers with 8860 helmets, one of the big things that they liked about the helmet is they had far less of a headache at the end of 4 or 5 hours because of the reduction of weight. I mean, we saw the weight reduction from the 8860 helmets that we were selling them. We saw a weight reduction of 1 pound or 1.5 pounds. And that weight over that much time sitting on your head is a huge advantage to lose all that weight. Also, painting your helmet. We've seen all the helmets that we did for NASCAR. We would weigh the helmet before it went out, and we'd weigh it when it came back from the painter, just the shell. And we found sometimes as much as 12 ounces, 14 ounces of additional weight added because of paint. Okay, if you want to do something cool with your helmet, you can do some really cool stuff with vinyl. So spend the money, get the lightweight, really strong helmet, and don't paint it. Do something really cool with vinyl. Or if you paint it, make sure the painter said, you know, don't put 15 coats of clear on top of it. You know, you can do some things, you know, that are there. And those are all really strong things to keep that helmet weight down.
Yeah, weight is really important too. And then consider your application, guys that are watching this going, you know, I haven't decided if I'm going to stay with the same brand, more entry-level price point helmet. If you're getting more serious and spending more and more time in the car, especially if you're instructing and driving in a weekend, or if you're doing any endurance racing, you're really going to place a higher value on weight purely for the fatigue aspect. You know, I spend a lot of time doing endurance racing now, and having a reasonably light helmet is a real critical thing. Having worn a really heavy helmet and a really light helmet, it makes an enormous difference on your fatigue level throughout the weekend. But like Joe said, the more important thing is that mass times acceleration component, right? It's going to keep you safer if it's lighter. Joe, we've got a lot of good accessory related questions. It seems like everybody knows exactly what our topic of discussions are. It's like I posted what we were going to talk about or something.
That's next to the next item on the list. Yep.
Yeah, that's all. Well, I learned a lot of stuff there. I do every time we do this. I find myself just learning all sorts of stuff. But going back to the first question that was accessories related was from Dane Smith, and Dane was wondering if there are any secrets to keeping your visor from fogging up while it's dropped. He seems to have to keep it cracked a bit to keep it from fogging up.
So fog there, everybody says anti-fog. So the Stilo helmet has an anti-fog treatment on the inside of the visor, which generally works pretty good, and it's a film. But if you get it wet around the edges, then you'll see that it will kind of, around the edges start to deteriorate. So anti-fog treatments in different helmets are different. The best anti-fog treatment, there's really two levels. So this is a Schubert visor, and you can get, and this has an extra, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an extra seal all the way around here, and there's another lens inside of the visor. Now, what that is doing is that gives you an extra layer of insulation. So this visor is not going to fog up. You can use it in the rain and whatever, and you're not going to get a fog. Now, you can get an inner liner like this. Stilo also has visors. Arai has visors and they call these rain visors are true. And this is the best solution for anti-fog. The Schubert also has a thing called Pinlock. So what the Pinlock is it actually has an insert on the inside of the visor that attaches on either side. And there's another sheet of plastic in there. So there's a little bit of an air pocket between the two. And that gives you almost 100% protection against anti-fog. So there are different things. Treatments for anti-fog, there's not really a lot you can do. Some people have tried, Rain-X and things like that. If you do have an anti-fog treatment on the visor, you want to be careful on how you clean it. You want to make, my monitor, my PC's here and the camera's up there. So if I'm looking at there, it's not because I don't know you're there. So when you're looking at anti-fog, cleaning it is very critical. If you have a Stilo visor or a visor that has a special coating on the inside, we recommend you use Acrosol to clean it. And you just want to make a quick spurts and wipe it with a microfiber towel, never a paper towel, never Windex. Because that can damage the anti-fog treatment. The Stilo anti-fog is almost a little bit sticky, and that's the only way you can really clean it is really soak it with the Acrosol, or you can use a really high quality brake clean. I know it sounds funny, but that's kind of what it is. On the outside of the visor, the coatings, you can clean that with a more traditional way, or you can also clean it with the Acrosol or brake cleaner. But anti-fog treatments, you need to find out what treatment it has and make sure that you're cleaning it in the right way. If there is no anti-fog treatment, you might try Rain-X, something like that might work. There is a Molecule has a anti-fog spray that you can use. This works. I think it works, somewhat similar to Rain-X, but I've tried it. I've tried it a couple of times, and it seemed to work for me pretty well. So, there are a few things like that you can use, but the most effective one is what they call a Pinlock, and that's available from a few different manufacturers, which is that extra layer. It's an extra liner inside the helmet. That's the most effective one because it's a mechanical anti-fog, as opposed to like some of the Arai and Stilo and Bell visors, which when they use an anti-fog treatment on the lens, that can be less effective.
Gotcha. That's something I need to look into as well. On the visor topic, Bryce, is your last name Salmon or Salmon? I'll let you correct me in the comments. But Bryce said, should you have a variety of visors for different light conditions? If so, what are the best tints to have? Is there a do-all? And I certainly have some opinions on this, but Joe, I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Your opinion is probably the same as mine because I probably sold you on my opinion.
You probably did. I'll let you respond for both of us.
So my favorite visor is a 50%. It's kind of a red mirror. I have a problem with tinted visors, and I feel most of them give me a distorted view of what's going on, or it just doesn't. I don't feel comfortable looking through them. This visor now, which Stilo has, and Schubert, and I think most manufacturers now, because it's become popular, have gone to that kind of a red, and that red colored tint on the visor. It gives you a good definition also on things that are going on the track. So it's a little bit easier to see oil marks and tire marks on the track. So I find that particular visor, I can use that day, night. Denny Hamlin runs basically that tint all the time. That's the only visor that he uses. Some people like amber visors. Amber visor will give you, some, tinting of sun and stuff, but it will also give you a really good definition on track, things that are on the track. And that's one of the reasons to wear a tinted visor. One reason to wear a tinted visor is because it looks cool. The best reason to wear a tinted visor is because it cuts down enough of the sun and it gives you a better view of what's on the track. And that's the real reason that you wear a tinted visor, is either to cut down on the sun or to give you the best contrast of what's on the surface of the track.
Yeah. Every time I've gone to the clear visor, I end up immediately going back to a tinted or 50/50 visor, and I also have an amber visor as well that I've used in lower visibility conditions that I like. But you're right. You want some tint, I think, on any visor that you use.
Most
clear
cases,
visors don't do it.
80%. So most of the tints are either 50% or 80%. There might be something slightly in between, but I generally find that the 50% gives you about 99% of the time the best alternative, whereas an 80% is just too dark. If you have an 80% visor, it's great really for that really, really, really sunny late afternoon where everything is round. But then you're going to end up having to have other visors because you're going to need to take it off, because that's not going to work for you in the morning. It's not going to work for you during the day. And I found that like that 50% red tinted visor, aside from looking marvelous, it actually gives a great feeling really throughout the day. So I don't find that I need to take it off to put on a clear. If it's a rainy day, it still works. I think that's in my mind, that's the best thing. And I've convinced a lot of people, and that's by far the most popular visor, regardless of what brand that we sell nowadays.
Yeah, it does look really cool. I mean, just looking at, that helmet, first of all, I've seen it in person several times, and it is one of my favorite helmets to look at. Just because you have the
off access for that. They did the painting for me, and I do appreciate that. And they did a great job. They do a nice job on painting. There are a lot of great painters out there, though.
There certainly are. I have to say, a lot of the off-axis paint jobs that I've seen, I've really, really liked, and I also like the Kyle Busch M&M's liveried helmet there on your left.
This was
pretty cool.
Kyle's helmet from Homestead a few years ago. We set up. Kyle was the first driver that we got into a Stilo helmet, he's still running the steel helmet to this day. This is an old, really old one, one of the really first ones. This is kind of cool.
The Stilos were so cool when they first started seeing them over here, and and thanks to you, obviously, for making that happen. But I remember seeing on TV those kind of pronounced. It kind of has the Star Wars, not Darth Vader mask, but kind of the Stormtrooper mask look, where the sides kind of have this aggressive look. And it just, I was immediately, I knew from that moment on when I saw them on TV that I'm going to have one of those helmets one day.
As long as it fit the right way.
Yeah, I got lucky. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
The Stilo and my head work really well together. But I think that's awesome information. I'm going to need to buy some visors as well next time I'm up there with you guys. I'm sure I'll need to.
Another thing with visors you can do is these are tear-offs. We have tear-offs. We have tinted tear-offs. So let's say that you want to have a clear visor, or you want a darker tint. You can add this to the front of your existing visor, and we have them in tinted, we have them in clear. Dirt track racers use them all the time. Open wheel car drivers use them all the time. So basically, they have a few different. This is a 10-ply, but you can have like a 2-ply tinted one, so that if you're going into a dark, let's say you're doing champ car racing, or you're doing some kind of racing where you're going to go from day to night, and you're driving in that segment where you're going from really bright low sun to nighttime. Basically, you can use a tinted tear off, which is going to give you the sun protection. But then as soon as you get down to the thing, it just swoop, you throw it out at the guy across from you, so he gets distracted, and you're good to go.
That's pretty cool. I remember watching motocross races when they first started using tear offs, and you'd see the guys. I love it when they go up over a jump in the air and they throw their tear off. That's also has the cool factor. That's awesome. Sam Nixon said that his ophthalmologist suggested a reddish brown visor in the sunlight, and he has blue eyes, so maybe he's got
and that's basically the reddish brown is what the red thing that we recommend. It's kind of and that's
awesome.
Why I just find in that colored tinted visor, the visibility is just much sharper than anything else, and it doesn't distract. And I'm really sensitive to distraction from different tints.
That's part of the problem that I have with the amber visor. It's great in very low visibility conditions, but as soon as it gets bright, it intensifies the yellow ambient light, and it gets hard to wear.
Right. While we're talking on visors, one thing I want to talk a little bit about is visors and airbags. So a lot of you are driving in cars that still have airbags. And as a point, I want to make sure that you understand how the airbag interacts with the visor. And this is a topic that came up 15 years ago, and we actually paid for a study at Delphi to test open face helmets, closed face helmets, visors up, sun peaks, and all this stuff. And what we found out that basically a visor, if you have a helmet on, if you have the visor, cracked for air like this, okay, that if the airbag comes out, what very likely could happen is it could catch the airbag and snap your head back. So if you're going to be in a car with an airbag, you either want no visor, in which case the airbag is just going to come in and hit the front of the helmet, or you want to make sure that you really lock the visor down. You do not want to have the visor just, floating there, because the airbag could catch it, and that would be a really bad thing. The other thing is a lot of people are like these popular peaks, that have a little thing that sticks out. Okay, or if you have an open face helmet, a lot of times they have a sun peak. Okay, like I have a helmet back up there with a sun peak. That's another thing. That's an airbag catcher. So you want to make sure that if you're in a car with an airbag, you either have no visor, no sun peak, or you have no sun peak and the visor down and locked. Okay, really, really, really important, because if that airbag goes off, you could have a nice injury just from that airbag catching your helmet and pushing your head in a direction and at a speed that you clearly wouldn't want.
That seems logical when you think about how the airbag would, interact with the helmet. Daniel Cooper's wondering if the visor is cracked only about a finger's width, so just a small amount of crack for the air.
Well, it depends on how, I mean, it's an unknown thing. So like on this visor here, and on some other visors, they have, where the pieces at the, I've got this. If I have a crack like this, I've got that space. I could potentially, I don't know if you can see it, but I could potentially, the airbag is coming out at a pretty hard force. It could catch that airbag and possibly, the airbag could catch this point and lift it up. So I really, I would say the safest thing to do is lock it down, get some, if you're worried about the fogging, you can try the molecule anti-fog spray or try something else, but I would lock the visor down. I've gotten into the habit. I saw an incident at VIR with a really nice E30 M3. A good friend of mine went off in NASCAR and hit the tire wall on the side, and the right side mirror broke off and shot through the car, and it went right across his visor. And there's a big gouge at the front of the visor. Ooh. So I've gotten into the habit that, even though I'm always in a car that's, got doors and windows and stuff like that that are open, I now always have my visor on, down, and locked when I'm on the track, because it is true, especially if you're not in a car that has window nets and things like that, something could come through the car and it could hit you. And if that visor is up, or if the visor is cracked, the potential that it might not work perfectly, I mean, bad things happen to good people at the optimum time. And so, don't take that chance.
That's something I've been conscious of. It's, I think Ron from Discovery Parts did a safety seminar, attended one time, and I've been conscious of that ever since, and try to run it all the way down as often as possible in a street car. And then the race car that I spend most of my time driving has a center net and a pretty substantial window net. And, in a long stint, I'll crack the visor at the various stages and move it up and down. But for the most, probably 90% of the time in the car, I'm trying to run it all the way down.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm instructing now, I always have my visor all the way down. It's really important.
That's good info. Luan is wondering, the current visor, is it the dark red or the medium red? The visor that
I would go with a 50%. The one I have on my helmet here is at 50%, because the helmet is dark in the back. You can't really see that it's 50%, but it's really there's really no way to show you here. But the 50%, it's not as dark. It looks darker on the tin because of the mirror than it really is. The 50% is really workable in morning light. You're first getting going early in the morning.
Awesome. Eric Pinn's wondering, is a GoPro on a helmet bad? So if you have a large camera, mounted on your helmet for an airbag, I would imagine is what he's specifically wondering about.
It's bad for an airbag. It's bad if you take any kind of a hit, where that thing is mounted. So, I mean, Michael Schumacher, the real reason he had an injury is because he had a GoPro or some camera on his helmet, and where he hit, I mean, and I don't know if this is the only purpose of it, but definitely one of the things that was contributory to his injury was that it loaded the helmet specifically at that point where the camera was mounted to the helmet. Okay, which then created a point in the helmet, which created a much higher load at that point. So I think having a camera mounted to a GoPro on your helmet, aside from the additional weight you're adding, it's also a dangerous thing. Should you have an impact, it could affect, how that helmet interacts with whatever it hits.
Yeah. You're changing the design intent of the shell of the helmet. Yeah.
Right. The helmet is designed to take loads on its shell directly without any other interference. So like when we add, I thought I had a top air system here. Well, so like the top air on Kyle's helmet here. Okay, this is designed to be soft enough so that if there's an impact up here, that this is going to disintegrate and it's going to allow that impact to hit the shell and let the shell do its job, okay, rather than this taking the load and dispersing the load around this. So you really want to have things that are, you know, are not mounted to the helmet that are going to change what the impact would be if should the helmet, you know, hit the roll bar or hit something else.
You want a manufacturer recommended accessory.
Right.
That it's amazing how much design intent and just how much comprehensive design there is in helmets, because all that stuff has to be considered. That's really interesting. I think the last topic we were going to kind of cover was electronics and communications.
Yeah. You know, I'm purposely on these talks, I try not to be product specific, because I don't really, you know, I want you to go away from here understanding about the safety topic. And, you know, I mean, I hope you buy the stuff from us, and I hope that we have the product that works best for you. But I really try not to, you know, push one product or another. 3 years ago, we did purchase an electronics company. So I'm going to do a little plug and just tell you what we're doing. Called Race Communications, and now we have a company. We have a division called Racecom, and the gentleman who's in charge of that, Asher, is an ex-F-15 avionics engineer, and he has transformed what we've done in the last couple of years with electronics. How we build the cables. All of our cables and electronics are warranted for 2 years because we're that confident in what it's done. And we built the new, you know, the TRACOM for communicator. This is now version 2 that just came out, and it will the sound we've done. Yeah, we've done everything we could. We've taken every bit of feedback from everybody to make sure that whether you have an old RU helmet or a steel helmet or whatever, that the sound is going to work perfect. And so we have a couple of kits, and you can buy kits from other people. And so I'm not saying that ours is going to, but ours is warranted for 2 years. But if you have earbuds and you're a racer, then you would get a kit something like this. So this is a boom that would be mounted inside the helmet. This would be for your earbuds. Okay, so and then this would be an Emsa plug that we would plug in. Now with the TRACOM, we have an adapter if you're doing instructing or if you're doing racing. This plugs into your car harness. So that's all that you would need in the helmet. One of the things we've done though is we actually, so here's your earbud. What we did is we came up with a design for a clip which can fit, and we have clips for different helmets that actually just slides up in between, and it allows that to sit not outside the edge of the helmet. And again, that's important. If you have window nets and interior nets and things, or a surround seat, you don't want to catch anything. You don't want to mount anything to the outside of your helmet that would potentially get caught in a net of some sort. So that's why we have this that we sell with the kit, depending on what helmet, and it can slide up with some 3M tape. So you don't have to drill the helmet, which you shouldn't do anyway. And it's keyed so that it will, your earbud clip will fit in there directly. The other thing you can do is, you know, if your helmet has earmuffs with electronics, so, you know, you have RU helmets, you have steel helmets, you have that both of those have electronics built in. Schubert has helmets with electronics built in. We also will have a kit that will give you 2 speakers, a boom mic with a cable that you can put into a regular helmet. You just have to make sure that it's designed to fit where your ear part is. Most helmets will have some kind of a cushion in there to give you sound. A lot of times you can slide the mic or the speakers up. It's a pretty thin speaker with some Velcro on the back. You can slide this up, and you know, we're not the only one that makes a kit like this, so it's not just us. You can slide that up into the helmet, and that could give you the effect of a speaker. Now, it's never going to be as effective as a helmet that has ear cups, because the ear cup is giving you some sound insulation. So you need to make sure then you have good communications equipment like a TRACOM that will be loud enough that if you use a scenario like this in a standard helmet, that it will work. So there's that, and we call that kind of an instructor kit. That's available, you know, that's readily available for different helmets and can be used in racing as well as for like driver schools and things like that.
Yeah, I just dropped a link in the comments, guys. If you're looking for the TrackCom or any of the communications accessories, check out the RaceCom part of the HMS website. I just dropped a link in there. I've been really impressed, Joe, with the volume and the improvements with the version 2 TrackCom over my old TrackCom, and I've really enjoyed using it. So great work on the development.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I mean, we did do a lot of work. I mean, we make this stuff in our shop here in Mooresville. It's not like we go to China and buy it and sell it. It's all made right here. This is our newest boom, and I don't want to call it a student boom because it's not just for TrackCom, but let's say you're doing an endurance race and you're only an occasional driver and you don't have all the electronics in your helmet and you don't want to go to the expense of putting all that stuff in. This boom can be just like with any student instructor type scenario. It can be stuck up in there. And we've totally redesigned that. Asher went back and redesigned it. We put a bigger speaker in it. We made it narrower. We have a nice little foamy pad there, so it's a lot better. We have a relief on the back so that the speaker can vibrate. So this is a solution that you can use. This is a standard Emsa plug. We have it with an NASCAR plug. It'll work with a TrackCom. It'll work with a regular full racing radio or a racing, you know, car harness, of which we also have car harnesses too. But this is a great solution if you need to attach to a radio that's existing in a car and you don't have all that stuff in your helmet. You can just get one of these and that will work, or it will work with our TrackCom or pretty much any electronics. So that's awesome. That's the electronics side of stuff.
There's a lot of good info on the website there, especially since the HMS website was actually redesigned earlier this year. So I like the presentation of the RaceCom stuff. So if you're in the market for some helmet accessories and electronics to supplement your future helmet purchase, make sure you check that out because you can get that all from right. Joe and from HMS.
For Stilo and Rue helmets to go to whatever. We also do car harnesses. We sell radios. So we have a full line. You know, you can check that out. It'd be nice. We're happy to. We have a number of dealers around. I know Discovery Parts and Stable Energies. You know, we're getting more and more dealers. If you actually have a store and you're interested in our electronics line, we have good margins. It's all MAP price stuff, and like I said, we warranty it all for 2 years, which in electronics is
that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. We have a firm 1-year warranty policy on the Apex Pro device, and I can understand the electronics in almost most cases. 1 year is a long warranty policy for electronics because they're inherently fragile and a lot can happen. So that's pretty cool. 2-year warranty policy. John Allen just hopped on and he said he's also in the helmet market, but also ready to retire his Chatterbox. Capital LOL, laugh out loud after Chatterbox. I said TrackCom's been getting great recommendations. John, I'd 100% recommend the Chatterbox, the TrackCom. I had the benefit of actually using a SpeedCom unit and my TrackCom back to back a couple weekends ago. And the SpeedCom's a much more expensive unit, much larger, takes up a lot more space in the car. I got better sound quality out of the version 2 TrackCom unit, and I was pretty confident that it was going to be comparable, but I was really impressed that I actually felt the audio quality was better. And similar situation, no dramatic change, no different cables, no anything like that. It was all just
and that's
pretty much.
Good to know because we used the sound quality of the SpeedCom and said, all right, we need to make sure that in our version 2 TrackCom that we at least met and exceeded, regardless of what connections you have to the TrackCom, and made it small enough that you can put it in the car. We're also making some kits so you can mount it to your roll bar. The other thing that we're going to be testing in next weekend actually at CMP with the Mustang Club is we made a Bluetooth adapter that will plug into. So basically, this would plug into your helmet on this side, and the other side will have a Bluetooth adapter that will then sync with your phone. And so if you had 2 cars with TrackComs and the little Bluetooth adapter with the phone connected, you would be able to do lead follow, hands-free lead follow with using the TrackCom. So basically, I think the only way the lead follow effectively is going to work other than hand signals is you have full communication. So now you got a lead follow situation. You want a group of cars behind you to go by. You can just talk to each other and say, hey, we're going to let this next group, next two cars going by and get them by and work. And so we've worked really hard on it. We tried just syncing, just plugging in the phone to the TracCom directly. And the problem with that is that the microphone, there's an interference with the microphones and the impedance with the phones. There was just too much static. So that was our first trial. So, that's why we ended up having to go to a separate Bluetooth module, because then the Bluetooth module, then the volume is controlled by the TracCom and not controlled by the phone, and the phone doesn't get in the way. So you basically can just sync the TracCom with your phone, throw the phone, and then start your Apex Pro, and then throw the phone into the box, and you're running, and you got everything working. And then if you do that and you've connected it, you could actually record. We also have an aux port, so you can record all the conversation between there and feed that into the video feed. So we got all this stuff working.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to post that video. Actually, I'm going to share a link of the video that I did not too long ago with using the aux port and a GoPro cable that HMS also sells. That's an auxiliary plug into the TracCom, into the GoPro camera, and you can overlay your audio, so live audio in the car. I wanted to capture a narrated lap. I get so many people asking me about track tips and advice coming to Barber for the first time. I wanted to capture some of the basic visuals and things around the track, and that was the perfect tool for that. So if you have any aspirations to create that kind of video yourself, or maybe as a learning tool, you might want to capture that from an instructor or a pro coach that you hire, or you capture your lead follow conversation, because that might be helpful. Joe, it might be good to, I was actually going to ask about your helmet lineup and the SA 2020 helmets. And then Luan got on here and said, when will the SA 2020 helmets be available on the HMS website? So I figured I would let you wrap up our conversation here with maybe a little foreshadowing.
But they're not. So I got to get on our web guy, Cody. But we'll have, we got orders in for Stilo and Arai and HJC 2020s right now. Those are the three primary brands that we're carrying. So we will be, we'll get those up on the website imminently. I thank you for reminding me, and we'll get that taken care of, because I did notice I was on a competitor's website today, noticed their 2020 helmets are up and they're promoting them, and we're a little bit behind the ball on that. So thank you, folks.
Absolutely. If you are in the helmet market and you want to, and you like the brands that HMS carries, they carry a little bit of everything. And like Joe said, I think they're going to have something that's going to work well for you. They have a showroom in the greater Boston area, Charlotte, North Carolina area. So if you need to try something on, that's the place to go. But check out the helmets listing. I just posted a link where you can look at the helmets on their website, and just keep hitting the refresh button there if you're looking tonight. If you're watching this Friday morning.
No, but we'll get them up there.
Yeah, probably be Friday. I think Cody's probably asleep by now. Maybe not yet, but a little early.
Right.
Well, thanks for joining me, Joe. This was great info. I know I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting my helmet refurbished, maybe picking up an SA 2020 here before too long. I hope if you're watching, guys, you got a lot of value out of this and feel equipped to make a solid purchasing decision. Of course, we'd all appreciate it if you buy your helmet from HMS Motorsport and all your other safety gear. But the main thing here is to make sure that you have the information that you need to be safe on the track.
Yeah, you can always, if any of you have any questions about any kind of safety issue, it doesn't matter if you're a current customer of HMS or if you bought from us or you're planning to buy from us, but if you have a question with your seatbelts or anything else, we have a very talented staff. Anybody who answers the phone is going to be able to answer your questions, and we don't require that you're buying something from us. If you have a question, you want to send us a picture and say, hey, does this look okay? We're happy to do that. Safety is our first concern. That's why we do these safety talks, and that's why we've never in the educational processes that we do. I really try very hard not to be in a sales mode. I did a little bit with the RaceCom, but I apologize for that. But from all that's not safety equipment, so I can talk about that. But from all the safety equipment, I want people to use whatever equipment they have. There's a right way to use it and there's a wrong way to use it. And the most important thing is that you have the information that you know how to use it the right way. So
awesome. Well, great info. I learned a lot as usual. Thanks, everyone. Luan just commented and said that they'll be considering, they'll be purchasing the helmet from HMS. So that is awesome. And folks, have a great night. We will see you soon and catch you next time on Motorsport Safety Live.
great. Thank you, guys.